Still sending data for the stream. Let you know when it's up. All right, looks good. Welcome to After the Act, a film podcast where we talk about movies and shows that we like. We're your hosts. I am Rendissimo, here with
Jorge Luther.
And today is a special episode. We have, I think, our first After the Act guest here, MK. MK, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, man, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
MK here is a certified DC fan. He's well versed in the comics. He loves a lot of their recent works, especially the uncut edits for Zack Snyder. But we'll get into that. But yeah, man, thanks for hopping on. We appreciate it.
Oh man, anytime. Pandemic, I ain't got nothing to do.
That's the vibe. That's the vibe.
That's very fair. That's very fair. Yeah. Jorge Luther here told me, like, we can't do this episode without Cam. Absolutely can't. I was all right, bet. Let's get it going. Yeah, I think out of all of us, you're definitely the biggest DC fan. I think.
Yeah, I'll try not to disappoint, though.
All right, man. All right, we'll hold you to that. And I felt like that was pretty much the theme I felt for this cut. I think everyone who actually cared about this kind of movie, the DC universe, had the whole, like, I really hope it doesn't disappoint. Like, I really, really hope it doesn't disappoint. But let's talk about the original one, because that one exists. Came out in 2017. MK, what was your thoughts on the original Justice League? Did it hold up to your standards of what you expected from the movie, or were you kind of like the rest, where you felt it lacked in some areas?
We're talking about the theatrical cut, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was garbage. First of all, they already had its predecessor, Batman versus Superman, was already a half-baked project, and there's already story behind that. How about 45 minutes worth of story was cut out, so there's all these gaping plot holes that were not resolved, and then they had the audacity to go into the theatrical cut of Justice League, and you had no idea what was going on. So yeah, there was really nothing you can salvage with that in terms of story.
Sure.
It wasn't good. It wasn't good.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I remember, man, you and I actually saw that one in theaters when it came out. We were just like, oh man, I think it came out on a weekend, I'm pretty sure. We're like, oh, we had nothing better to do. Even though, we're in grad school. Let's go watch Justice League. And we were just scratching our heads the whole time. I think afterwards, the highlight of that day was we went and got some pasta to eat, which was delicious. But we were just like, man, what the fuck happened to this? Josh Whedon. I don't know how much
of that theater. Man. I walked out that theater feeling I was mugged.
Yeah, it was weird, man. Exactly. And then I at the time, all we heard was that Zack Snyder dropped out because, unfortunately, a family loss. But we didn't know how much of the movie was filmed. They kept that pretty under wraps. So we weren't at the time sure how much Josh Whedon had to play in terms of script changes and movie shots or reshoots or anything like that. So it was just a really big head scratcher moment for, I think, the two of us. It's pretty much fair to say. We just walked out of there saying, wow, they really botched that one. And now I don't see how DC is going to compete with Marvel in any way, shape or form. This was like their best chance, and they completely destroyed it. So it was really disappointing at the time, and that was in 2017. And I mean, it took, look how many years, 4 years, just to get the Zack Snyder cut after fans came together in petition to see all of these unreleased shots, and of course he did reshoots for this version of it. But this is actually one of those moments like Sonic that I'm really happy about, because the fans finally have an influence on the final product, whereas before I can say with pretty much 100% confidence that the movie studios would not have cared about what the fans had to say. But due to very particular, very special times we live in with COVID, and then on top of that, streaming services becoming more and more popular, you can see things slowly starting to change. Fans have a bit more input now on these projects, so that's what my initial impression of Justice League was. But what about you, Randissimo?
Yeah, the original one, just like you guys, didn't care for it. Like I felt it was better than BVS, but that's the saying. It's better than scum. So after that, I was kind of done with having expectations for the DCEU until like Wonder Woman came out, and I'm like, all right, maybe they can have fun with like single character movies. Maybe that's their move instead of these group ones that they try to force. It seems, but I was pleasantly surprised, like very, very pleasantly surprised with the edited version. I wasn't one of the fans who was, clamoring for the Snyder Cut. I didn't really think this much was left on the editing floor. I figured, yeah, maybe there were some shots that could have been introduced, but I don't have high expectations at all for this DCEU. I was kind of like tapped out of it. If they make some individual films, I might check it out, might catch it on HBO. If not, I can leave it. 4 hours of this, I don't know what else could be in this movie that would justify 2 more hours, but sure, let's check it out. And yeah, trying to compare the two, it feels like a different movie, a completely different movie. It has way more time spent with the characters that you didn't even think they cared about. I didn't actually realize that movie cared about Cyborg's plot at all. You couldn't tell from the first cut. And that was really the damning part about the first movie, is this, these characters felt just undeveloped, uncared about throughout the process, and that's definitely the difference you see with the new one.
And from what I gather is with the theatrical cut, there was a lot of studio drama behind it, and and the fact that Zack Snyder suddenly lost his daughter to suicide, and rather wait for him, to grieve, get his family together before returning on the project. They were just like, all right, let's just scrap about 90% of his work and let's get Joss Whedon in on this, because there is mega success with the first 2 Avengers movies that he did, and this will just clear everything up. And as we can see, that didn't work. That didn't work out too well.
Yeah, it was tough too. For obviously Snyder went through that kind of tragedy. And then the studio's kind of forcing a new person to kind of finish the recipe there. But it wasn't Whedon's movie. He had to just jump in and piece together what footage was there, maybe film a couple of things. I can't imagine that's an easy thing for any kind of even seasoned director to just piece together a movie that they had no original vision for. It's not a recipe for success at all.
I agree. And again, we don't know how much of a role Whedon played. I know I've read recent articles that Whedon was called out by several of the people on set, including the actors, as not being the best person to work with, which came to light quite recently. So again, I don't know how much of that is true. If it is true, that's really unfortunate. It makes this cut even better, because now the actors finally got to come back with Zack Snyder and put out the product that they wanted to initially. But yeah, like you said, Randy, this felt like a completely different movie. It almost felt like they were just the studio. I think it's WB, right, who owns the rights to the DCEU. Yeah. They were just like, okay, well, Avengers was successful. Let's just take that guy, plug him into our film, which is like the Avengers of our universe, and we should be good, right? Cash cow. I mean, there really isn't going to be much of a difference. Audiences nowadays don't care, right? They just want to see really flashy, slow-mo scenes, their favorite heroes, and call it a day and go home, right? And I'm so glad they were wrong, because, I mean, I like Whedon. I like a lot of Whedon's work. Obviously, Avengers 2, I thought, was terrible. I thought that was the weakest Avengers film, hands down. Probably one of the weaker Marvel films in general, hands down. But it's kind of like we said, Randy, it's a little tough for a director to come in any capacity midway, almost past midway through a project, and expect them to churn it out into something amazing. So really just WB was the biggest reason why this movie flopped in 2017. And again, I don't know if it's due to the pandemic and them having to switch to streaming without, being happy about it or what, but I'm glad this actually came to fruition. With a 4-hour runtime, I don't think this would have ever happened in movie theaters otherwise. I'm sure they could have broken it down into 2 parts, but I mean, I've only ever seen Avengers do that from what I remember. Maybe the Matrix movies, the last 2, but it's not really something you see quite common. in movie theaters. So I think it's just a product of the unique times we live in again, and I was happy.
Yeah.
I was happy it kind of came together into this beautiful recreation of a project that everyone thought was unsalvageable.
Yeah, yeah. And before we get into spoilers, let's talk about the Zack Snyder cut. So, MK, how did you feel about this version of it?
Oh, I loved it, man. It was. I even have to admit, I was skeptical going into it. I thought, it was just going to be. I thought it was going to be a mixture of Joss Whedon and Snyder's reshoots in it. I thought it was going to be like a Frankenstein project.
Right.
Like, we finally get this. We finally get the Snyder cut. Let's just see how much more accelerant they poured on this dumpster fire. But no, I was pleasantly surprised. I was really happy to see Darkseid. And I think that really excited me.
Yeah, they did a good job making him feel like, the Thanos of that universe, the looming threat that's not there yet, but he's having his subordinates do some damage, and his subordinates are strong too, and that's exactly what that movie kind of needed, that overall threat to look forward to in their own saga. And I didn't think they were going to include him at all until those trailers popped. I'm like, okay, cool, getting some Darkseid, very epic, cosmic proportion stuff might go down. Let's go.
And I love Gal Gadot. I love Gal Gadot's own Wonder Woman. I think she's great. We're not all right. We're all right. Wonder Woman 1984 doesn't exist. Let's just put that to the side. Let's just focus on Justice League Wonder Woman. She was. Her performance was great. I loved the Flash. He was great. I love that guy Ray Fisher as Cyborg. I think Ben Affleck was made to play Batman, and I get into this argument with a lot of Batman fans, particularly those who are a fan of the Batman films. I say objectively, this Batman has the best combat that you've seen in any other Batman movie. He actually moves like what you would see in the animated movies and the animated television series and even the comics. It was actually smooth but like if you look at someone like Christian Bale, it's really stiff and robotic. So and I like Jason Momoa as Aquaman in this. He's not the goofy jock like he was in the Whedon version. Like they're really trying to make him into DC's version of Thor.
Yep.
And I like how he developed his own personality in this. All in all, I think it was a good movie. I was very impressed.
Yeah, very fair. And I double down on what you say about the whole Batman combat. I think it's very clear. Like none of the past movies focused on the martial arts and athleticism of Batman in costume as much as even BVS and Justice League did. He actually fights like a martial artist wearing armor. That's his style. And as much as I loathe BVS, that was the best part of it, is seeing Batman kick some ass. He actually looked like a threat versus, Christian Bale's like you have to turn his whole body just to look behind him and catch someone. It's way more staggering.
Now, did you watch the BVS Ultimate Cut?
I have not watched that one.
Okay, you'll have to watch the BVS Ultimate Cut because like the Justice League theatrical cut, there was a lot of stuff missing. 45 minutes of footage missing. You know how in the beginning of the movie, how you're in Africa, in the Sahara Desert, you're wondering what the hell does this have to do with the story? They actually tell you why they are in the Sahara Desert in the beginning of this movie.
That's a good start.
Yeah,
that's a good start. All right.
And after watching that movie, you develop more of an appreciation for Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor.
All right, fair enough. Might as well, I doubted Justice League's cut, so I'll give BVS that benefit of the doubt too.
I still have to watch that cut too, man, because I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. I don't think that was the best pick, but that's also because I saw it without that extra footage to kind of do it justice, like the characters being done justice, pun intended. So I will definitely check out the what is it called, the uncut version, the extended version, whatever it's called. I'll definitely check it out.
The Martha scene's still in it.
Yeah, save Martha. Save Martha.
Yeah, they didn't get rid of that.
But I will say this: I
Nothing
think
you
my
can do there.
favorite scene, my favorite action scene of all time in any DC project was the scene where Batman is going to save Martha, where he's fighting all those dudes in the room.
Mhm.
It feels very much like what Batman should have been in an animated series. It had that
Exactly.
same vibe to it. And he was taking
Exactly.
on multiple opponents at once instead of like the Christian Bale Batman taking on one
Mhm.
guy at a time. So
Mhm.
this is definitely the Batman that I'm used to seeing in the animated series. So it was
Mhm.
really nice to see that, and it made sense, right? Why he was fighting so furiously, because in a way, not sharing the same name included with that, it was as if he was trying to save his own mother, right? He never got a chance to
Mhm.
try to save his own parents, but he had a
Mhm.
chance to do it here when Superman had asked him to. So I really did enjoy that. One thing I also wanted you to bring up, man, is you actually told me this. I had no idea. But you said Thanos actually came after Darkseid, and it's from the same creator, right?
I believe they're from the same creator, Jack
Hmm.
Kirby. Because that's another point I want to bring up, because a lot of people who are unfamiliar with DC properties, who are more on the lines of Marvel, when they see this movie, they're going to automatically think Thanos. DC's copying off of Thanos. No, Thanos is modeled after Darkseid. So so when you go into this, you have to think, like, we're looking at the archetype here for like the cosmic baddie in the comic book in American comic book canon. So yeah,
Sure.
that's I think one thing that people should go into with an open mind with this. This is not a ripoff of the Infinity Wars. This is its own thing. If anything, Darkseid is much more menacing than Thanos, because Darkseid, his whole thing is conquering and subjugation and misery and feeding off of that misery. They try to give Thanos a degree of nobility in for his motives in the Marvel Infinity Wars movies, which is still a contrast to his comic book counterpart, where he's just a raving lunatic going to world, killing
Yeah,
people
the Mad
to
Titan.
appease Lady Death or whatnot. Yeah, so
Yeah, different characters for sure. And that's a good tidbit there of who came first, and they have vastly different kind of power scales. Darkseid is in his own nebulous, really.
yeah, Darkseid
Yeah,
is just, oh my gosh, yeah,
yeah,
Darkseid is he'll smack Thanos around like it's nothing. I mean,
yeah.
there's no comparison.
I think there was actually a death battle on that YouTube channel, Death Battle, where they did Darkseid versus Thanos, and spoiler alert, Thanos got his ass whooped because it's Darkseid, as it should be, as it should be. And at least this movie, the cut, it does Darkseid way more justice. He exists. He, everyone saw how strong Steppenwolf was compared to the regular League members, and he's just a minion compared to Darkseid. So that's if they decided to continue with this series, then that's something to look forward to, of how these gods among men can compete against the gods of gods.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you saw how it took like about a few of the old gods to just take out Darkseid himself. So you had like 3 Greek gods trying to pounce on Darkseid. And that just gives you a degree of how powerful he was.
Yeah, a little taste of that. And we might as well just dive explicitly into spoilers at this point. So let's do spoilers for Zack Snyder's Justice League starting now. And I think that was actually one of my favorite scenes. It was just seeing the old heroes fight Darkseid and his crew. That was I didn't expect them to show like Zeus and I think it was Ares throwing it down against Darkseid. That was fucking epic.
Exactly, and that in itself was a massive improvement. It was Steppenwolf in the theatrical cut.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That was already a fundamental difference for me, because they in the theatrical release they banded together just to beat Steppenwolf, which always seemed weird to me because he got murked by Superman at the end of the theatrical cut. So it made it less impressive that everyone had to band together on Earth just to beat Steppenwolf. But in this one, it makes more sense, right? They had to fight someone who was as powerful as Darkseid. So it had that very epic Lord of the Rings feel to it, where they all have to come together to fight at Helm's Deep. Like that's the vibe I got from that scene. I
Exactly.
really enjoyed it. There was a third god. What was it? Was it Artemis? Like I can't
I
remember.
believe it was Artemis. It was Artemis, Ares, and Zeus. We saw fighting Darkseid head on.
Yeah, and Zeus had that epic Leonidas looking
He
design.
did, yeah. I was thinking, who does he remind me of?
Yeah.
I was like, oh snap! This is Sparta.
Which is a fair, it's a young Zeus, so it's like, yeah, I like that change up. It's not like the old white bearded kind of one we're used to seeing in art depictions and Disney
that's
movies.
what I was looking for.
Yeah,
that's what I was looking for. I was like, oh snap, that's King Leonidas.
Yeah, you got like some kind of red electricity going on. Like, this is dope as shit. Like, all right, cool. Let's get that movie. I want to see Wonder Woman against them. Yeah, that old lantern who got murked, and you see the ring go away. Yeah.
I really enjoyed that too because it finally power scales in a very sensible way. Because before it made the old gods seem really weak in comparison, right? Which I didn't really sit well with me because the old gods are still very powerful, right? So it was more believable to see them, being able to compete with Darkseid and being the reason why they beat Darkseid, or one of the reasons why they beat Darkseid. So that to me was already better in comparison to the theatrical cut. So it was cool to see that in action, and it kind of power scales Wonder Woman a little bit better because now when you see her being able to solo Steppenwolf in the beginning of the film, it's like, okay, Steppenwolf is actually more of a viable threat now because we saw just how powerful the old gods were, and Wonder Woman is essentially an old god in terms of level of strength. So I really, really appreciated that scene, the way they tweaked it, right? But the outcome was vastly different at that point. So shout outs to the old gods. I loved being able to finally see them. And Darkseid, man, he they still made him look like a badass, even though he lost in that flashback. So I did like the attention to detail there in terms of each character's power scaling.
And that was pre-Omega Effect Darkseid. Like, that was pre-Omega Beams. Now, if he had Omega Beams, that battle would have had a significantly different outcome.
I'd imagine so. That's always the signature of like, yep, I can just, it's like your laser, Superman, except way better. Look at where all they can go. Look at all these directions.
Yeah.
Cut through the entire army in a row.
That is true. It would be able to do that, right? Be able to just go through everyone simultaneously.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like the that whistling arrow from Guardians of the Galaxies. Yeah. Same effect, but on a Omega God level.
I was just about to say that,
but yeah, that was a fun scene for sure.
So I'm gonna just flat out say, and maybe it's too early to talk about this, but I'm just gonna get my gripes out of the way now, so that we can just keep talking about what we liked about the movie.
Sure, go ahead.
But people deserve to know, what we thought in terms of negative and positive. And no movie's perfect, so take these gripes as just that, gripes. I thought overall the movie was fantastic, but to me, one of the things I really disliked, and again, this is a nitpick, I really hated how they kept reusing Wonder Woman's theme every time she did something. To me, I got really tired really quick of hearing
the Xena wailing.
Exactly. I forgot how the captions labeled it, but it was
lamenting
just like
wailing or something.
Lamenting Amazonian music or something like ridiculous. Like every time they just had to play that song. It got me to the point where I was conditioned to believe that even when I saw her doing something casual, that they were going to start playing that music in the background.
Yeah.
She's like eating a donut and just play it again.
Exactly.
Yeah, it diminishes it. It diminishes the theme song. It should be tied to her about to kick some ass or something, right? Her and the Amazonians about to do something epic. Not, in between scenes of them just having some smaller battles or whatever. The theme should mean something. That's why you have them.
Yeah, like if you're up to me, that whole Amazonian lamenting music or whatever they call it, that would have just stayed on Themyscira. That had that rustic sound that should have just stayed in that piece. But every time we would see Wonder Woman, I want to hear that Hans Zimmer theme.
Yeah, you're right.
We heard that joint was hard. With that crazy guitar riff and everything. Yeah, they should have kept that. I wanted to hear that more. Like when every time we see Superman, we hear his theme come up. But every time we hear Wonder Woman, man, I think it's like 1996 and Lucy Lawless is about to jump out of nowhere.
Xena, man. That was a good show, though. Xena? Hell yeah.
Yeah,
Get
it was,
behind Xena.
classic.
But just
shout out to Lucy Lawless, man.
yeah, Lucy Lawless. She was also in oh man, I just saw her in something. I can't remember what it was, but oh man, I'll think about it. But just to finish up my gripe on this, there was also some scenes with Wonder Woman that I just really thought were unnecessary. I think you and I discussed one of these beforehand, Cam. But in the beginning, when they're introducing her again and she's stopping the European terrorists from blowing up all the children, at the end, the girl was just like, "Can I be just like you?" And she's like, "You can be anything you want to be." It felt very Captain Planet.
Yeah, it was kind of forced. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very corny, very cheesy, but that one wasn't the bad one. To me, the one that was just really nonsensical, and it had just no reason to be in the film, was when Steppenwolf is fighting Wonder Woman, and he's like, "Leave her to me." And then they have this weird, corny shot. It looks like it's coming straight out of a Mortal Kombat intro, where she looks at the screen and she's just like, "I belong to no one." I was just like, "What?" First of all, what does that have to do with anything that's going on in the context of the scene?
There's poor writing in those instances. You can give her something better to say. You know, like I'm all for promoting, like, little girls, you can be badasses, but it's like,
exactly,
have her be a little more interesting when she talks, write something a little bit better than that.
And don't lie to the little girl. No, you can't.
You can't be a guy. You can't.
Yeah, you can't be a guy.
You could be a badass warrior, sure. It could be like one of my sisters, but you can't be me.
Yeah, go in the military or something. But you ain't gonna be, some 5,000-year-old demigoddess. Nah, ain't gonna happen, little girl.
Know your limits. Know what you can do. You can kick ass, but not like me.
And then
the
warrior
the final accepts his limitations.
Exactly. And then the final thing that really bugged me is I hated the music in this movie. It just didn't fit a lot of the time, and the only song that did fit was Wonder Woman's theme, and to me it was just overused. So I think the music was poorly synced.
That was Snyder right there. That was Snyder. He has that weird thing in all of his movies. Like he did the same thing in Watchmen. You remember? Like he would have like those weird segments where slow mo. You hear some like 60s or 70s pop music playing. You're like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah. He put the Snyder imprint in every place. I guess along the same lines of gripes I had. There's so many slow mo 5-minute shots of just superheroes standing, and I hated it. I just straight there was this one scene. It was like Aquaman coming from the bar, just standing on the pier looking at the ocean. It felt like I watched him look at the ocean for 10 minutes in at least 17 different angles.
And what was that other part where that was it when Bruce went to go look for Aquaman, and they were talking on the way out to the beach, and Aquaman's like, "Nah, I'm not going to join you." Swim off, and you have those Icelandic girls just start singing and whatnot.
That's it. What is it, like some kind of cults of Aquaman? Like, are they praying to him? Do they think he's a deity? What? Why are they having this solo moment right here?
To me, that very much.
I think he might have smashed the night before or something, because the way she picked up his sweater and started
sniffing it,
sniffing it,
That's
there's some boning.
It did feel that way.
That's how you know someone's into you, when they start smelling your sweater
and singing a 5-minute song about you. Yeah, as you swim away.
That whole scene to me seemed like straight out of Midsummer.
It did seem like Midsummer. Yeah, it did.
Yeah, it did.
They had some weird custom, like, all right, our god of the sea is going away. He won't be able to smash for a while, so let's sing him his song, the song of our people.
Been so long.
It's been yeah. I think
that was called the Seaman's Lament.
I like it.
Lament. No.
I like it. Mm-hmm. I think the worst crime of the whole, like, the self-indulging, I think is probably the best way to describe those scenes. I think it was the end shot of all the heroes standing side by side, all 6 of them, and I kept thinking it was the pan. I kept thinking the pan was going to end, and then it would just linger for another like 30 seconds after each angle.
Mm-hmm.
It was too, like, I think the trope is at the end of a superhero, you'll see like Spider-Man swinging through the city of New York City or something like that, and that happens a lot, and that's it is what it is. But it's like, at least that shows that, like, he's going to go do something. They're just basking in whatever just happened for a long time, and it's just a style that just it grates me. I think that was probably my only criticism of this movie, besides some music stuff.
To be fair, To be fair, the way they took out Steppenwolf, I would just stand out there and bask in my glory too, because that was badass the way they took him out compared to the theatrical release.
The finale epic.
I don't remember how they killed him in that. I don't remember how they killed him, but you saw how, like in the theatrical release, they used Superman as like a Deus Ex Machina. Everybody was getting their asses whooped, and here comes Superman, and he takes out Steppenwolf within 5 minutes. And in this one, you see everybody get a hit. Then Aquaman comes from behind and impales him with the trident, throws him backwards, and here comes Wonder Woman with the finishing blow, decapitates him. And you're like, this is vicious.
Yeah, which is beautiful, right?
That was good.
That fits Aquaman's character perfectly, right? Because he's just like, I'm a straight up warrior. I don't take chances. If I can kill you, I will kill you. And that to me made Aquaman infinitely better in this movie than in the theatrical cut. Because in the theatrical cut, he barely did anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think he barely kept back the water from the scene with the Nightcrawler, and even then, I was just like, isn't he supposed to be Atlantean? He can't control some water from flowing towards the Nightcrawler. So I was very disappointed with Aquaman in the theatrical cut. And this one, I was like, that's on brand for Aquaman. That's perfect. He just like sneaks up on the dude and he kills him, as you should at Warrior. Why would you, in DBZ style, let them power up and flex on you all the time? It's like, no. If I see my chance, I'm gonna take it, and I thought that was super believable. I love that scene. And one thing that felt a little weird for me, maybe you guys could tell me your opinion, was in all the previous DC films, you don't see the heroes killing anybody, right? I mean, you okay, maybe Man of Steel's the exception because he has to kill Zod at the end, but he really doesn't want to. But
I wasn't mad at that.
Yeah, and then in this one, they're savages.
There's a lot of death in this one. It's just straight up like, yeah. I feel like hundreds of people are just dying.
I think that's going to be like a new trend going on because dark superhero stories are starting to really become demand, and that's what kind of steered me away from Marvel because it's too happy, too colorful, But in this, man, it feels like the stakes are real. Folks are dying left and right. Folks are getting injured. That's what I like to see in a superhero story.
Yeah, and like the most wholesome character, as I like to put it, Wonder Woman just chops a dude's head off, like without even hesitating, just lops his head off. Boom! At the end of the
day, she's an Amazon, and that's all they do is kill.
Yeah, I mean, them versus Steppenwolf. I'm like, like maybe Batman doesn't need to kill like humans like he did in BVS or like it looked like he did, but Steppenwolf, cut off his head. That's fine. He already threatened that he already killed like your sisters and your mother, so that's.
And it was relishing in it too. Yeah.
That's a fair death, but that finale, that one moment of them all getting the blows felt like a combo video game finisher that you can get with like a Marvel versus Capcom or even Shippuden. It's like, all right, all the characters get their final blow in. And even before that happened, you have the wonderful moment of the heroes failed. They technically failed, and then you use the only character that can actually help save the day, which is Flash. And they do a good job. They actually give him a storyline. They have the whole.
Flash was the MVP of this movie.
I loved Flash.
Yeah,
I loved Flash.
They gave him the whole like, hey, here's my dad thing, the classic Flash storyline, the whole like, this is what I'm interested in. I had this one rule I don't break. Here's my power sets. And then they let him do that thing. They let him do that Flashpoint kind of moment of everything went to shit. Run, Barry.
Effects.
Yeah,
like the special effects were just brilliant for Flash. I mean,
looked real good.
I like the way they did it. Yeah, man. And Ezra Miller did his thing. I was watching with my mom, and she thoroughly enjoyed his character. Like, he was funny, he was a bit quippy. I really enjoyed Ezra Miller in this movie. I think when his movie drops, I'm going to enjoy that too. But I just love the effects of the Flash. Like, it wasn't the generic, I'm just running real fast. You see the lightning, you see the lightning bolts. You see how things go in slow-mo. I think that was a perfect execution of Snyder's slow-mo technique. And I think, I think that's why he really, you can tell he's a huge fan of the Flash, and he really wanted to do this for the Flash, make something fresh and different.
Absolutely. I will say this. This was a point of debate between you and I, Randy, here. Maybe, Cam, you can tell us what you think. I thought Steppenwolf's design was great, but I hated Cyborg CGI. But I think Randy is of the opinion that he hated both of their designs, right? Like it was just too much. They were trying to do too much with the CGI. And
there's a lot, there's a lot of CG on the surface that you can see with stuff like, because his armor is so intricate. It looked like thousands of different parts that kind of like expanded like gills. And to me, I just noticed way too much CG on the surface of him and Cyborg. They were cut from the same CG tool. So for me, it didn't work. It looked way too baked. I would love more actual aesthetics instead of what they had to do, because if they had to make it move, therefore they added so much digital on it. So for me, it didn't work. It wasn't a good drip for me, at least.
Like,
okay,
like I didn't mind it too much, because I know what they're trying to do with this Cyborg. Like, this Cyborg's aesthetic is based primarily off of the new 52 Cyborg, where he's more mechanical than he is organic, and that he is pretty much integrated with human technology and apocalyptic technology with the mother box. So that's what they're going for. Yeah. Like, I would have I prefer the Teen Titans model of Cyborg myself. Yeah, I like the way that look. I like that look better, but I didn't really mind it. And I thought that Steppenwolf's improvements were, much more satisfying than what we saw in the theatrical release. It was just garbage in the theatrical release.
Exactly. The theatrical release, Steppenwolf did not look threatening at all. He looked goofy as fuck.
Definitely looked worse.
This Steppenwolf looked like a legit alien monster who was just really powerful,
shiny.
Really to jack you up. Yeah, very shiny. Maybe too shiny, right, Randy, in your opinion. But guys, that's another difference between the Zack Snyder cut and the Whedon cut, man. We didn't get that classic booyah line from Cyborg. How do you guys feel about that?
I was waiting for it. I was waiting for it. There was one moment where he said like a hell yeah that I felt like was probably the original booyah. I'm like, it's fine. It's fine.
It didn't hit the same, but on the flip side is I love what they did with Cyborg in this movie, because I don't even see why they even bother still have him in the theatrical release. I mean, since they cut out like about 90% of his role.
He was a nothing character. That's what they've written for him.
Yes, he was integral to the damn story in this. Him and his father. I like the whole dynamic between he and his father. The whole story between them was all about them reconciliation. And that brings me to a gripe. That we were discussing earlier.
Oh yeah, I know where this is going.
All right. So like, remember when Cyborg was having his flashbacks to when he was, in the principal's office and his mother was in a conference with the principal. Mm-hmm. He got in trouble for changing a girl's grade, and the mother was like, "Well, don't you know that she lost her home last year and she's been struggling, and he helped her. You guys didn't." I'm like, that's not the school's responsibility. You know how many homies I have who are homeless and still manage to still do their work, and let's be real, he was being a simp. He was trying to get some ass. That's what it was. He's like, "Yeah, girl, I can save you. Give me a few. What's that? D you got there? I'll raise that to a B. We good, right?" Let's be real here, man. That part was unnecessary, and that kind of takes and that put more necessary ire between he and his father, because it was already there that there was contention between the two, because his father was an absent-minded scientist. He was more concentrated on his work, and in the comics, the mother was already dead. So that's, that was the way the father was coping with the mother dying, focusing on his work. And this caused greater distance between his son. And what I got kind of with this was like, yeah, you have his mother here, they're trying to posit that the mother is inherently the better parent than the father. I'm like, all right, I see what you're kind of going with this, but it's not going to work. I mean, she didn't need to be in there. I don't even think that scene needed to be in there, period. I mean, it was good enough that, the father and son had their certain issues that they didn't need to add anything else to it. That was my main gripe with that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna quickly say my piece, Randy, and then I'll hand it over to you. But I agree. I think on top of that, the thing I really didn't like about that scene was they were trying to show that he loved his mother, right? His mother was this really great person, really smart person, but her argument was really dumb, and I think it took away from her character, right? Because it at that point when I heard her say that line, I'm like, his mom's just an enabler. Like, what is
Yeah.
this? They could have picked a better situation to show that the mother goes at bat for her son, but also teaches him morals about caring about people. This did not accomplish that for me. So I don't know. I think it's just another example of maybe them not paying attention to certain scenes as much as they should have in terms of writing. But yeah, I could have done without that whole scene with the principal and the mother. What do you think, Randy?
Yeah, I guess I'm mixed on it. I accept the whole, like, he's a teenager. Like, all right, I'm just help my friend out. She's struggling. I'm gonna give her an A. I feel like it wasn't too like morally like irresponsible of Cyborg. That sounds like something I would have done if I had some kind of skill set like that at 16, 17, whatever. Like, all right, well, yeah.
To get the ass.
Sure. Either for ass or, whatever it is.
I mean, let's be real here.
If I had to imagine, it was just like, because what I also imagine there's a lot of students like that. So I think I would have preferred he went farther with it. Hey, like, let's, like, my whole class, like, our teacher is some kind of asshole or whatever. Like, I don't want them to miss out on good schools. Let me just change this whole class up one letter grade. So I actually wish they would have went farther. Like, it's not just one person he's looking after. He's like, yo, I have my whole classes back. Like, I'm their captain right now. So I would have rather they go farther in that direction, just because that can kind of show his hacking skills, and then it seems more moral than just one person. I like the point though of the mother dying should have been a catalyst for a change in behavior for the father. I think that would have been a better direction of, he was semi there beforehand. Once the mother dies, he's trying to cope by creating distance, which is kind of like a classic father trope. You kind of seen it in Ant-Man, that whole situation of losing his wife and became more distant with his daughter. I think that would have been a good catalyst.
Like how us men are. That's kind of like how us men are. When we're upset with something, we don't like to do a whole bunch of talking. We just like to go off in our space and just work on what we're doing. Keep our minds occupied. So, like, yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
that would have been a good trope. Other than that, I also like that through line with Cyber. I felt like he actually got like 30 to 40 minutes dedicated to him and his father. Everything about that was great. It was a classic, Like, you can already see it coming once he had the tape recorder and smashed it before his father gave him from the father's advice. Like, okay, he's clearly going to die.
You should have started off with that.
Yeah. I know, yeah. Like, start, like I'm going to tell you how to use your powers after you hear my father's speech. I know you want to hear that shit after that. He's like, dude, I already got the knowledge. Thank you. I can control everything in the world. They also just made Cyborg explicitly incredibly powerful. Even off of the exposition of what his powers are. He controls literally everything in the advanced world. He can't do much in an old world, but in the world we live in right now, he is arguably a extremely broken character. And I like that. Cool. Give him his own specific power set as to why is he a god amongst men, which are, typically what the DC characters are.
Exactly.
I agree. Exactly. No, absolutely. I mean, just when they were introducing him, it felt very Superman to me, because he was saying the issue here is not doing the issue here is not you having the ability to do these things. It's having the ability and then not choosing not to do it and abuse those powers. So
yeah,
it felt very Superman-esque in terms of the whole speech of with great power comes great responsibility. I know that's not from Superman, but it's the same message, right? So I really did appreciate that. That was probably the biggest difference between the Snyder cut and the Whedon cut, is they finally made me care about Cyborg, right? Because initially in the Whedon cut, he was just kind of thrown in there. He wasn't the strongest of the bunch, right? So he really didn't have moments where I was just like, wow, Cyborg's a really cool character, a real integral part of this team, and he's one of the reasons why they won. Like, I did not get that from the Whedon cut, and that's why this movie needed to be 4 hours long. Right? Because they needed time to make it believable that they finally came together as a team, were motivated to work together, and they all had some reason to be there. Right?
And the chemistry was good. I enjoy the chemistry between the characters. You know,
Yeah,
it felt organic.
Absolutely.
And I don't need to have Cyborg's powers, man. If I had Cyborg's powers, man, all black people getting their reparations. Wake up the next morning, you have $2 million in the account.
That's the Cyborg movie. I actually legit want that. I'm like, dude, next is you're helping our people, right? Like, you're making it even for black people, poor people in general. You're just destroying capitalism, right? Like, cool. All right.
You got $2 million in your account. You good, right? All right, cool.
that's dead. That's what I want from a Cyborg movie.
Everybody getting their money.
That's it. That's it.
Getting that stimmy, baby.
No student loans, man. Like he could have wiped out the student loan debt with a thought. You know, you can get rid of the $1 billion crisis of student loan debt. Yeah, man, that's awesome.
He can literally dismantle every government system in the world with that kind of thought of like, hey, if he was like a socialist, a Marxist, and he can actually make that a civilization for everyone. There's a lot. You can go deep with this kind of cyber power set.
They might do something like that. They might do something like that in his own film.
Yeah. I hope they do. I hope they do. Once you stop the aliens, all right, cool. Fix humans.
Yeah, because I think Ray Fisher is going to be a star after this. You know, like he didn't get a chance to shine in the theatrical release, but this one, yeah, he did his thing.
For sure. Sure. And it doesn't look like he had. It sounds like very reasonable beef with production, specifically Whedon. It doesn't sound like he wants to come back still. I don't know if that might change if, Snyder gets more love from the powers that be.
When that money starts looking right, he gonna come back.
Yeah. He could. But, if not, he can always jump to Marvel. He can jump to his own thing. He was great. Really, there's no weak. I think the only character that I was still disappointed in was the Lois Lane character. She still was not needed. She still was put in, I forgot what they call it. I think it's like fridging, when like a woman's character in a movie seems to only exist to motivate the man to do X. And that was still what happened with her character. She was mostly just like, I can't live without Superman for the majority of her small arc. Until like maybe a little bit at the end, she was like, okay, maybe I'll get back into journalism just a little bit. But mostly it was just like, well, Superman's whooping our ass, Lois. Can you stop him from kicking our ass? Yes, I can. Here's a hug. And then that was mostly it.
Power of love, man.
I wasn't really that mad at that, because like if you experience loss, you just don't feel like doing anything. You're just like pretty much living in your own apocalypse the whole time. You're just looking for something to help you branch you out. And here she is, the first was a Batman versus Superman and Man of Steel, she kind of, developed this relationship with Clark Kent. And just when things were getting real between the two, like he proposed her, you saw her with the ring and everything, dude dies.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
I'm totally cool with her grief. Like that makes sense. I want to see her process of grief, but give her something to do other than be the catalyst for Superman to be good again. Like that was her main purpose. Like you see her grieving. Ultimately, what she does is help Superman come back to the fold, which is important for literally saving the world. But I just wish they gave her like that badass like Flashpoint paradox you saw in the DC animated version of Lois Lane, where she's in the trenches, like she can grieve and then realize that she has a role to play, an active role. So whatever it could be to write her in to say, listen, I'm a badass journalist. I can get down in the trenches, be with the boys and fuck shit up too. I really wanted that for her. They couldn't carve out that kind of story, but that's probably my other character that she deserves more respect, I think, in future Snyder flicks, if that exists.
And speaking of, no, go for it, man. Go for it.
I believe she will. She had her shine. She had her shine in Man of Steel, and she had her shine in Batman versus Superman. Like she was pretty much the glue in that whole damn movie, especially if you watch the Ultimate Cut. But I believe I think this movie will pretty much be a stimulus to branch off more into the solo Superman mythos. So we're going to be seeing more of Lois Lane, and I love Amy Adams. I think she's cute and adorable. I think she's a good Lois Lane, and yeah, I think she served her purpose in this movie, because this really wasn't about her trying to uncover some serious plot, because she did that in Batman versus Superman, because she's the one who pretty much called Luthor out. So
That's fair.
her time wasn't her time in this movie.
Okay. Well, guys, I know we've been kind of talking about Lois Lane. This is a bit of a segue, but you mentioned Superman coming, Randy, and I really just wanted to talk about this because one of the things I noticed in Zack Snyder's previous interviews about the Justice League, and people brought up Kevin Smith's movie Mallrats. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Mallrats, but there's this one scene in particular in that film where one of the main characters is talking about comic books, right? And you know, Kevin Smith, he loves comic books in real life, so he tries to implement those kinds of conversations in his films, especially his earlier works. Mm-hmm. And they're talking about how it's impossible for Clark Kent to actually procreate with Lois Lane, right? Because you see the pregnancy test in the drawer in one of the shots of the Zack Snyder cut. And people are debating this, right? Because the argument in Mallrats is what happens when Clark Kent ejaculates. Like it's like a shotgun blast. It'll just go right through her body, right? How can he control his strength? You would need someone with the genetics of Wonder Woman to be able to even feasibly reproduce with Superman. So how does that work? And then he ends the conversation with, I mean, he could wear a kryptonite condom, but then that would kill him. So what do you guys think? I want to hear your opinion on this.
Well, in the comics, I know after they killed off the 52 universe because everybody hated that shit, and in Superman Rebirth, they retconned that stupid flaw that humans can't procreate with Kryptonians. So now in the comics, you actually have Superman with his, legit son, Jonathan Samuel Kent. And he's a perfect hybrid as opposed to Superboy Kal-El, who's an imperfect hybrid. And he pretty much has all of his powers with the potential to become more powerful than his father. So they kind of got rid of that. So, yeah, it was about time for him to get rid of that stupid trope anyway.
I like that. I like to have the thought that he has so much control over his body, he can also control his sperm velocity. I think that's my theory. Is he
hold it?
he can let the dribble. He can just let the dribble come like a gerbil's water bottle. So that's my take on that. And it's interesting because I think I read that ultimately what they wanted to do, and it sounds like they won't because they kind of spoiled the behind the scenes thoughts, is they wanted Superman's son to become the next Batman or the next Robin for Batman, something like that. But sounds like they might not do it since they're kind of leaking that thought that they had, but that would have been interesting. The whole, instead of like Batman versus Superman, it's like, in this universe we don't get the Robin, he's dead by the Joker's hands, but Superman, who was his arch nemesis, maybe something happened to him where now Batman is the father figure to Superman's son. That would have been cool. That would have been kind of, I haven't seen that personally in the comics. Obviously we get like Batman's actual son as a Robin, but Superman's son, that would have been cool.
And it's funny you brought up the Joker.
Jared Leto.
We got to talk about Jared Leto. Like
that epilogue was the longest epilogue I've ever seen, and I was with it. I was totally with it. I was just surprised at how long that epilogue was.
But Jared Leto's performance, man, that erased all the shit that we saw back in 2016 with Suicide Squad for me. I thought that was brilliant. That exchange, you just felt that tension. How Batman was like, Harley Quinn told me before she died that she wants me to kill you real slow. And he saw Joker like looking at Batman in the eye. He was like, you almost had me there. You ain't gonna do shit.
This was a extremely better Joker. The small bits we got in that reshot. He clearly did his own homework, revisited his own performance, and changed it. For one, exactly. Covered up the whole like really, really bad tattoos, really, 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 really bad tattoos he had, and just went with a Joker version. It was a legitimate Joker.
Yeah.
You see the sadism in Joker's voice and what he says, how he still wants to hurt Batman, even though they clearly are trying to save a world that is dying. And it was a good performance, and I love that nuance of at first Joker you can actually see him breaking his own character, not the actor, but the Joker character himself wasn't the Joker in that one moment where Batman threatened him. He was a little worried, a little hurt, a little mad, and then he kind of reverted back to Joker, and that made everything about the whole visions of the apocalypse better, because I want, because what they're doing is they're pretty much doing that Injustice video game storyline, and you have versions of it in the comics, which it's great. I love that storyline. Clearly, Superman is the badass of the heroes. What if he was a villain? Cool, perfect. And the way they set it up, the collection of new heroes they have, which is just a combination of villains and heroes, perfect. I love that setup. I would love to see that movie.
Oh yeah, Al, you got to discuss your theory that we were discussing earlier about the timeline bifurcation.
Oh, absolutely. But before I get to that, I just want to talk a little bit about Jared Leto here, because I have very mixed feelings here. Just knowing what I know about the Joker, I heard a very interesting theory. I can't remember where it's from, but it was online, and they said that takes place during Darkseid finding the anti-life equation. And the theory was that the reason why the Joker is there and he's a big asset is because Joker perfectly encompasses chaos, right? That's his whole philosophy. He likes to create chaos. And I love that scene because it's just him and Batman going back and forth talking shit to one another, right? He's just like, remember when I killed your homie Robin? And then Batman's like, remember when I killed your bitch Harley? He's like, come on, what you gonna do about it? I'm gonna fucking kill you. No, you won't. Yes, I will. Just you wait. Like, it's just the biggest shit talking rivalry of all time. But I feel a little conflicted because the theory I read online was that because he perfectly embodies chaos, the anti-life equation has no effect on him, right? Because he's just already embracing that disorder that Apocalypse is known for. So to him, it's just like another day. Like that's the environment he's used to living in terms of his mental state. So I thought that was interesting. But I just don't know how believable it is for me if that's true, and that the Joker perfectly encapsulates like following the rules of chaos. Why would he make a truce with the Justice League to change anything, right? Because that's perfect for Joker. That's like home for him. So why does he care about reversing timelines? Like, to him, that shouldn't mean anything. So I love Jared Leto coming back and doing a better performance for the Joker. But even then, for that scene, the writing just seemed
I think I see where they're going with it. Because, in order for there to be chaos, there has to be something to destroy. There's nothing in this world. So I think Joker is like bored out of his mind. Like, yo, we got to go back to the way things were. We got to get back to business. I'll join you. I'll help you with this thing here. We can work together on this thing here so we can get back to the way things were. But once we get back to the way things were, that's when, it's back to business, like,
sure.
We're going to play our cat and mouse game. This is boring for me. I can't live in this world anymore. There's nothing for me to do. There's no one for me to terrorize, nothing for me to destroy. Darkseid did all that for me, took all the fun out of it. So for this thing, we're going to work together so we can get back to the way things are, where you chase me and I make your life a living hell.
Yeah, and obviously it's like you have to piece, like, because we got Deathstroke is up in there. There's a lot of characters there that you don't get the idea as to what happened to them. And I was with Alex there too, of like, this seems like the world for Joker, but I think you're right. I think Joker would like to be an agent of chaos, and if chaos is the new standard, then I don't think that's chaos anymore. I think that's a new normalcy.
Yeah, what's the use for me? Yeah, why am I here then? You took my thing away from me.
Yeah. So technically he would need to disrupt chaos to create chaos in the new world order. So.
Existentialism, ladies and gentlemen.
There you go.
But I would love that. I would love that movie to dive into that kind of psyche.
Joker's the original hipster. He's like, I was the first one to embrace chaos. Okay, all you guys are here now. I was the very first. I also see what Zack Snyder was doing. Again, he likes to get a little dramatic, but this Joker almost seemed Messiah-like with his long hair and just the way he was speaking to Batman in the beginning. They almost made him seem like he was the Jesus of that world, like he was the prophet. He understood the world around him.
Wise man.
Exactly. So, again, probably what Snyder was going for. Did I like it? I don't know yet, but I know I did like it at least a lot more than Suicide Squad's portrayal of the Joker. So that's where I stood on that. But here's the thing you were mentioning, Cam, and I'm going to present both arguments. Randy, you tell us which one you agree with, or maybe you have your own that you have a suspicion for. But we were talking about the biggest cameo in this film, which was Martian Manhunter, right? I don't think anyone expected to see Martian Manhunter in this film.
They changed his name up and everything.
Exactly. And he's the big part of the Justice League. Even in the animated series, you have Martian Manhunter. And I think you were saying, Cam, that he serves more as like a watcher. Watcher of Superman. If he gets out of control, then he interferes. But other than that, he's just kind of in the background doing his thing. So we were talking about the ending to the film, Randy, and we were saying, well, Martian Manhunter, right? That's his role. So maybe, Cam had an idea, MK had an idea that perhaps it was Martian Manhunter sending the prophetic dreams to Batman, right? For him to try to change things. And I was like, oh, well,
he is a telepath, yeah.
Exactly. And I was like, well, that might be true because, someone with the abilities of Martian Manhunter might be able to peer into alternate timelines and try to prevent them. That doesn't seem outside of the realm of possibility. But then I was like, but I have a different theory, right? And you can tell me which one you agree with. But for me, right, when the Justice League fails, right, the Flash gets injured, and I didn't even know he could super heal, but it I thought that was cool. I thought that made a lot of sense. But he fails, world goes kaboom, and he has to reverse time. But here's the thing. Just like in Flashpoint Paradox, there's consequences to fucking with the timeline. So to me, I interpreted that scene as, okay, because he reversed time, there has to be consequences. So instead of reversing everything in the world that we know, what he did is he split apart a timeline. So the timeline we see is a new timeline he created that's split from the normal timeline where everything ends in a happy ending, at least for now. But the one we see with the Joker in the epilogue, in the new world of Apocalypse, to me, that's where the movie starts off. That's the result of them failing with the mother boxes. And so in Batman versus Superman, you see Bruce Wayne getting that vision from the Flash. To me, that's what it is. It's Flash understanding what he did, separated two timelines, and he's trying to go back using his powers to warn Bruce Wayne about things to come if they fail. So to me, that was my theory.
Gotcha.
What do you?
And I like how they mentioned that too. I like how they did a throwback to that in this movie. Like how Batman was like, "Yo, I remember sitting right here, and Barry came out of this portal and was talking to me." I like how they kept that theme going.
Yeah. Then it kind of makes everything else make sense of the whole Flash doing the time reversal. Yeah, they keep that in mind. I think I have a slightly different theory, but it's what I thought too when I watched the movie, and a lot of it is based off Flashpoint Paradox. Because if Flash doesn't reverse in time, then I don't think the characters we see in the epilogue would exist. Cyborg gets fried. We see him get reconnected when Flash is going in reverse, but we also see him in the epilogue. So I don't think that epilogue could be what happens after the mother box is successful. I think they all have to be dead. If Superman's getting ripped apart, then he's not the threat either. Maybe you can say he recreated him or something like that. But I think he wouldn't recreate Cyborg and all that kind of stuff. I think they would all be dead. So I do think that the epilogue is a splintered timeline. But I think the original timeline is this Earth is destroyed just like the rest of the planets. And the splintered timeline is that kind of time boom effect where, okay, you stopped one tragedy, but another one now is going to take place because of the effects of the time boom Flash effects. So, I do think it's a separate timeline, but not the one that would have happened if Flash never reversed.
And when we go into timelines, your writing has to be airtight.
It gets messy.
There can't really be any room for error. Like Flashpoint, the comics and the animated movie did it beautifully. Here they're going to have to, go to the drawing board and see how we can actually fill this out. Because I've seen where they try to do bifurcated timelines and it really messes on itself. Like an example, the Legend of Zelda series. They say there's 3 timelines in that game. It all stems from Ocarina of Time. There's a timeline when the hero time is successful. There's a timeline where the hero of time dies. There's a timeline, where the hero time, says fuck it, I'm just gonna go home. Like it's when you messing with timelines, it gives you so many different possibilities of where the story can go. And when you do that, you kind of like have a dog that's out of control in the leash and he just like runs away from you. And like you're just trying to play catch up the whole time. So like if they're going to do this, they're going to have to do this real airtight. They might have to consult some of the award-winning writers who actually done like the animated series and like the comics, like Paul Dini or somebody, or Grant Morrison, or Jeff Loeb. Like they're going to need some assistance with this because they have a real good thing going here. The Snyder Cut pretty much rekindled the interest of the DC universe for moviegoers and fans of the comics. So like they're really going to push this forward if they're actually now seeing a future for this.
Yeah, and I think it's messy with the actors. A lot of them not wanting to come back. I think they're planning on replacing Superman too, if I'm not mistaken on that front. I would love if they're going to come. If they got those actors,
they see that money.
Hopefully, right? Like I know, like Ben was going to get paid regardless, but he just quit on himself. He just couldn't handle it. He was going through his own shit, so he dropped the Batman. That went elsewhere. But I would love if they got them back for at least one more movie, and then you could reset the universe after Flash.
Yeah,
because that's exactly the beauty of someone like Flash. You can bring them back for this apocalypse like storyline. Flash realizes he has to kind of erase a rule he broke before or something like that and just reset it so you can have the Batman. I forgot who's playing the Batman in the Batman, but it could be him in the main universe. It could be a different Superman, a different kind of cyborg. So I think that's the route I would like them to go. Bring back the originals, do one more epic Justice League movie tied with the Flash paradox, and then reset it after that. And do what you want in the late 2020s, 2030s.
But it's such a waste though, because Ben Affleck is the Batman that we've been waiting for.
Yeah, he's good.
These are these characters. They were done so well in this movie, and they were also driving force behind the Snyder Cut being completed, because it wasn't just the fans. The cast wanted this done too, because they put all this hard work into it for just to be scrapped.
That's fair.
And I hope they do come back, because Ray Fisher, he was really good as Cyborg, and a lot of folks are saying like, yo, he was the main guy behind this movie. He's developing a fan base, so he might come back once he sees how much love he's getting.
Hopefully, yeah. I think that'd be ideal. All the actors are like, okay, let's keep doing this. That would be the best non-compromise version for sure.
I agree. And something interesting, Cam, if you could just elaborate on it. You were telling me that one of the things you really enjoyed about Martian Manhunter was the fact that if you look at the general he's imitating, it made a lot of sense if you go back and watch Batman versus Superman.
Yeah, like the whole is like from Man of Steel. Was it the guy who plays him? Was his name Harry Lennox? I was thinking he kind of reminds me of John Jones. Like he's a military guy, but he seems like a military guy with actually like a heart and spirit. Like he actually cares about what he's doing. I'm like, this guy seems, there's something off about him. Is he an alien, or is he a superhero going to end up showing himself later? But then I was like. Then when they showed that he was Martian Manhunter, I was like, yo, y'all really got me. Because if his name was like Colonel General John Jones or something.
Yeah, it would have been obvious to a lot of fans at least.
That would have been like very obvious. But they changed his whole name and everything, like, which makes sense because he's a shapeshifter. He lived like about hundreds of different lives on Earth. And he is the last Martian. So, it was just interesting the way they did it. And if you watch the ultimate cut of Batman versus Superman, they actually showed more of him in there. Since like earlier you brought up how Lois Lane needed more of a role in in the Snyder cut. Well, in Batman versus Superman, she was getting all of his information. She was getting all of her information from him. You know, they were like really tight in that movie. So that's where you see. So that's where you see like him actually, you know, having a degree of empathy for her when he like takes the form of Martha to go console her and say, "Yo, you got to come back into the world." So
Gotcha.
you know, like there was just something interesting about his character when they revealed him to be Martian Manhunter. I was like, oh, now I get it. This makes perfect sense. Because why would he be so interested in everyone's life? You know, he's a military guy. You know?
Yeah, that's
just take
that's
orders
fair.
and shit.
I actually forgot that was a scene in this movie, which actually confused me. I'm like, why does he care that much about Lois? But
Because it goes to the fact that because it goes back to the point that was originally made that he was kind of like Superman's caretaker from afar. He watched him grow from afar in the comic books, from when he came to Earth to his adulthood until when he introduced himself to the world as Superman. So you know,
sure,
he was kind of trying to make sure that you know because let's be real, man, like. When it comes to men, you know, like when you have a good woman in your life, she is pretty much the one who keeps you in check.
I mean,
so like,
yeah, we see Superman without Lois. What happens?
Yeah, exactly.
He definitely needs that moral compass, and I love that they introduce again Manhunter's character, and I love Batman like finding that Earth-based hall for the Leaguers to be in, because of course that allows, they even said it themselves, for like and more, like us and more, because you can have Shazam and Manhunter, you can have all the Justice League Unlimited folks that I grew to love in those 2000s eras of that cartoon. I would love, like, ultimately when they first announced Justice League, the thought of that, I'm like, yes, do Unlimited, make that be the long-term project of eventually you're just going to have literally all of these characters, and then maybe you could splinter off and have a Teen Titans, a Young Justice series too. So I think they definitely performed their best, at least to general audiences, when they did things like Wonder Woman or Shazam. It focused on these characters that never got shine before, and the well is deep in characters. So I just really hope they double down on that. Cyborg is interesting. Blue Beetle's interesting. All these different Robins and Damian, they're interesting. So let's Batman and Superman, we love them. We get it. They're cool.
Yeah.
Let's do the rest of them now.
Exactly. And we got to talk about another unsung hero in the Snyder cut. I don't know about y'all, but I love Jeremy Irons' Alfred.
He's cool. I like him.
Good.
He was funny, He's like, you get on my damn nerves. You know that, right?
Yeah, he's always just tired of his shit, right? He's just like
he's like, you're full of shit, man. You get on my damn nerves. If you don't take your rich ass out of here and go do something, man, you get on my damn nerves, man.
Easily the best version of Alfred. Easily. He felt like a combination between Lucius's Michael Caine and Lucius in The Dark Knight, and then a younger version of all that. Just like sarcastic with Bruce, like he doesn't serve him tea the way like all the other Alfreds, like, oh sir, would you like a spot of tea and I could tuck you in and read. It was like, get your ass in there, man, do something, get your ass up, I'll get you tea, but like stop being an asshole. Like he checks him.
Exactly. I also like how Batman himself was like useless. I'm gonna be real. Christian Bale's Batman was technically useless. He didn't have one innovative cell in his brain. In this one, you actually saw Batman building his shit and Alfred assisting him with it.
Yeah.
I really love the use of Batman in this, because even in his final fight scene, like I said, it perfectly. When I saw him in the Batmobile doing his fucking thing, especially in the, I assume that giant aircraft was the Batwing, like was supposed to be the what's it called, the Batwing, the flying car he has.
Yeah, Batwing.
I really enjoyed that. I was like, okay, this is vintage Batman from the comics. He does things his own way, and he understands his role. He's like the de facto. He's got that leadership role to him. So he's like, all right, I'll do what I can here. You guys take care of the rest because you're best suited for it.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love that scene where he has Alfred make the gauntlets that are supposed to copy
Yeah.
Wonder Woman's gauntlets.
Mm-hmm.
And she even makes the comment of like, okay, well, just go ahead and make a lasso next. Just make sure it's in black. But I love that because that's
That was
Bruce
funny.
Wayne.
That was
Yeah,
funny.
he sees something that's useful, like you said, MK, and he goes and he replicates it, and that's what makes him such an important team member, right?
And this,
I remember I was watching this with my girlfriend, right? And she brought up a really good point. Two things. The first thing is Alfred, even though he's always checking Batman, he's got it the worst, right? Because everybody he cares about, his only job is to see them fly off, and he doesn't know if they'll ever come back, right? So that's already a tough position to be in. But one thing I really did enjoy was just the importance they finally gave, because he's the only real human, right? He's the he doesn't have superpowers, obviously,
and he accepted that too. That's a good point you're making, because he accepted that. Like when you read comics and you even watch the animated series, there's like kind of a degree of insecurity that Batman has.
Inferiority complex.
He doesn't have powers. But in this one, when Flash asks him, "Yo, what is it you do?" He's like, "I'm rich." And what?
Yeah, it was a great joke, and you're both exactly right. It was just, I understand I'm the support system. You know, I'm the Tony Stark of the money side, at least, and I can just support you guys, get you guys what you need, get you to the battle. I'll do some Batmobile shit, let you do your thing, because you're fucking gods. I'm a guy with a wallet.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You know, I'm your get out of jail free card. You know, I can buy the press. You know, so we can pump out our own propaganda, hyping our asses up. You know, I can buy weapons that will blow up the world. I can buy our hiding spot. You know, like I'm the money, and I accept my role in this arrangement we have.
Exactly. And for the most part, I think that's part of the brilliant moment of that scene for me, because I remember, again, I was watching this last night, and this scene came up where he's going off. He's like, "I'll stay here. You guys take care of it." And then I think to myself, I don't know why everybody's worried about Batman in the Justice League. They have to keep it in context. He's a fucking human, and he's still alive. Like, at this point, you should just trust Batman. I mean, if he's still alive, only having wealth, essentially his detective skills / knowledge, and his inventions, and he's still here, leave that man to do his thing. I mean, come on. He's fucking Batman. Stop worrying about him.
Exactly.
Yeah,
he's been doing it long, and he's been doing this longer than most of them. You know, he pretty much said in the movie that he's been doing it for 20 years at that point. So we're getting like the older, seasoned Bruce Wayne, like the Dark Knight Returns Bruce Wayne. So by the time this movie comes out, he's like a veteran, and this is just business to him.
Yeah,
it's like in a sense,
And even Barry and Cyborg recognize him, right? They recognize his work. Even Barry sees the Batarang. He's like, "Oh shit,
he's a legend,
right?"
Yeah,
legend.
Yeah, you know, he was kind of coaching the Young Bucks, if you want to be real, in this movie.
Yeah.
You know, and I like how in the scene when they're on the carrier getting ready to go to battle, like if you remember the theatrical cut, they like took every moment to make it all lighthearted and funny and goofy. But in this one, they were genuinely nervous and scared about what they were about to go into. Like they had no idea what was going to happen. They're like, so we actually have a plan now, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the newbies, the Flash, like only probably like Wonder Woman's the one who's has the most experience. But other than that, Batman is the guy. He's the brain. He's the intelligence. He gives everyone else confidence too in his own way. And it's this is the Batman people wanted to see. It's the one who cares about the greater good, who's not like a weird xenophobe like in BVS. It's like, okay, I understand that we actually need, like, all these heroes are their own people, but they're tools for the greater good. We need a Cyborg for this, a Flash for this, a Superman for this, and that's the Batman we want.
But even his quote unquote xenophobia in Batman versus Superman was kind of warranted, because when you see the horrible, I mean, that's like the first time he saw like beings of that power and that magnitude just like fighting and like just going through buildings like they're made out of cardboard. That will do something to your head. And he kind of got out of control with that in that movie, but I kind of understand where he's coming from. You have these titans fighting the air, and and they're dropping all these debris, and people are getting squashed like ants, while these guys are just going at it, not realizing the damage that they're causing around them. So like, yeah, I can understand the paranoia behind that.
I'm all for I'm all for paranoid Batman. Just usually the paranoid Batman is conserved. Like he has the blueprints to fuck everyone up if that happens. So that's the difference. Of like, I want him to be able to kill Superman at a notice, but keep that locked down. Keep your phobia in check and realize that first and foremost, you can use Superman as a tool. In case someone like Zod comes back, you're not going to do shit about that. So, be the coordinator, use them effectively, and more of that Batman. If Ben wants to come back, that'd be great. But at least use this Batman as a blueprint for the future ones.
Ben Affleck, come on our show and talk about it.
Yeah, this is his Deadpool, if you ask me. Like this was the role he was meant to play. Like as an actor, I'm not really a fan of Ben Affleck. I'm gonna be honest and say that. But him as Batman, it was like slipping on perfect size glove.
It just seems like he hates being superheroes, right? Because he was also Daredevil, and then after that movie, he hated it and never wanted to do it again. So
Batman was actually a passion project for him. He just hated dealing with the studio interference with WB.
Oh, that makes sense.
Because he actually had his own. He actually had like a script for his own Batman movie in the works.
He did,
which was going to be a part of the DCEU. But then, like with the calamity that went on with Batman versus Superman and the nightmare behind the Justice League production, he was like, "Screw it, I ain't got time for this shit, man."
Sure,
plus try to give me y'all something good.
And fans can be toxic, right? Like especially like us in like the geekdom sphere. People really like certain characters in certain ways, and they. Like, imagine being famous and you're just getting notifications all day and saying, like, yo, what the fuck? That sucked. You sucked. You suck. You suck. This sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be in that space either. That's not a good vibe.
Exactly.
It's not a good vibe.
Exactly. I was actually eating crow also because, prior to Batman versus Superman, I was like, oh, man, they got Ben Affleck to be Batman. Like, this is going to be shit. But then I saw Batman versus... Yeah, exactly. But then I saw Batman versus Superman, in spite of all of his flaws, he was brilliant in that movie. I'm like, you are Batman. As the point that you brought up earlier with the warehouse scene. I was like, that scene felt like him doing like a long chain combination from the Batman Arkham series. That's what I had in my head when I was watching. I was like, yo, he's on that 12-piece combo that, took me like a month to master.
Just to get that next point to upgrade that skill. Yeah, that's exactly how it felt.
To this day, that training scene in BVS where Ben Affleck or Batman is training to fight Superman, like every time I watch it, I just get so pumped. I'm like, this is a pre-workout video for me at this point. I'm just gonna watch this and I'm just gonna feel so
and
excited.
I've done something I've done some of them workouts that he's done, like when he was doing the pull-ups with the weights on it. I used to do that all the time, and that gets you right. That's like the best exercise you can do, man. Like, I'm trying to get back to that level, and his 50-year-old ass can do it. I definitely can get back and do that again,
That's fair.
Like, he was Batman. He definitely took that role seriously. It was just sad that WB didn't understand what they had here, and they're too busy trying to play keep up with the Jones with Marvel, and
Yeah, as it happens, but at least it ended with this. This is a good. If all those fatalities had to happen to get this 4-hour epic, then so be it. Mm-hmm. We got a good ending at least. And before we wrap it up, I'm interested in
epic.
Absolute epic. So what would you guys like next? Like either it's a specific character that never got a movie before, group of characters, or something set in this timeline. MK, what do you want to see next out of this? Come out of this project?
Well, what I want to see next is something that's already in the works. I want to see what they're going to do with these Shazam movies now. And we have Black Adam coming out, and I love Shazam. I love that movie, and with and how at the end, how they showed Superman come in, like have lunch with him. I want them to build on that whole Shazam and Superman relationship, because Shazam is like a huge fan of Superman. Like he looks up to him. That's like his role model into becoming an adult, mature superhero. And I want to see them do more of that. I just really want them to take this Snyder cut and just use this as like the clarion call, just to revamp all the mistakes that they made, following the theatrical cut of Justice League. Because, dude, like, they got something good here. It'd be sad just to see it go in the trash,
Yeah, very fair. And I think The Rock is still set to play Black Adam, right? So
yeah, that's a passion project for him too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that there's such interesting characters. I love the whole dynamic of like Shazam possibly being mentored by Superman. That could be a really cool relationship. Yeah. And it's the villains he fight are crazy. Yeah, absolutely. You could do the Superman and Shazam. And it could kind of play like the first Spider-Man movie in the MCU of Iron Man being there for Spider-Man in certain moments to just help him out, guide him to being the next leader, if you will.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like it. What about you, Luther, over there? Anything you would like to see in the DCEU?
First of all, it's Jorge Luther.
Excuse me. Yes. Mr. Luther is your father.
I will say, I think we share an agreement on this one, man. I want to see something with Raven. Raven was my favorite member of Teen Titans. And I think they have the potential to make something really dark and gritty, especially with, I think Raven has the most interesting storyline amongst DC heroes other than maybe Constantine, and it's still that cosmic kind of environment. I'd love to see her interact with Trigon, show Trigon the otherworldly threats within DC, maybe tie it into a Teen Titans film, because I love Teen Titans. So that's something I would really like to see. So I'll keep that quick because I actually have one more thing to talk about after this. But I'm gonna let you say your piece, Randy.
Yeah, I'll double down. Well, Raven all day. I would love to see, because I am a huge fan of the animated DC verse they made. It's brilliant. I think it's on par with Marvel. It just has. There's not a lot of weak movies in those 15 plus movies they have. And I think we talked briefly offline before about the last movie they had, the kind of the finale of that universe, which felt like Endgame. I would love to see characters like Constantine and Swamp Thing to have their own Justice League Dark movie. I would love a darker version of this team, a team that handles weirder cosmic biblical things that the normal Justice League wants. Yeah.
Let Keanu do it again.
bring in Keanu. Some weird Flashpoint brings Keanu's Constantine into this verse. Love it. Justice League Dark. Let's go.
I think it's hypocritical bullshit.
I love that movie so much.
I just rewatched it last week. It still holds up. It's a good time.
I love it.
So I will say this. All right, just before we rate it, give it our rating. There's just little things, little highlights I want to say that I really liked about the film in speed format here.
Yeah.
I thought the Amazonas scene in the beginning was even better. Right. I love that scene where they're in front of the mother box and Steppenwolf is like, "I'm going to show you fear." And the queen is just like, "Amazon, show him your fear." And they're like, we have no fear. That was great. You're really right. Epic.
That was great.
That was like their version of like their version of
Very 300. Yeah.
What is our profession?
Exactly. And then I want to talk about Ezra Miller because I've heard a lot of gripes about how his humor was really awkward in the film. I thought most of those scenes were the same from the Whedon cut. So for me, I think that comical relief was not only needed, but it was actually fine because he's supposed to be a goofy character who's awkward around people, especially women. So it would make sense for him to have these cringy jokes throughout the whole film. So to me, I'm going to disagree with what a lot of people say about his dialogue. I thought it was.
I had no problem with him.
Yeah, I like it.
I loved him.
I liked him.
He was good in his movie.
Yeah.
And then the last two things I want to mention that I really liked here was that the epilogue showed Lex Luthor breaking out of Arkham, right? Because in the beginning of at the end of BVS, he looks really terrified when Bruce Wayne says, "There's fine facilities to actually help people heal who are suffering from mental illness, but not you. You're going to Arkham." And he has like this brief moment of fear on his face. But then at the end of this Justice League movie, he makes a small comment about how he did his time in Arkham and they actually helped him gain some clarity. So I was just like, oh, that's an interesting little bit, right? Because he's a madman. He's a mad genius. So what would typically drive a sane man mad actually drove a madman sane. So I love that.
They kind of alluded to the point that the mother boxes that he was exposed to kind of like messed with his mind a bit.
Yeah,
I
So
agree.
they kind of alluded to that a bit. So yeah, and this, like in the epilogue, as you say, we kind of got more like the Lex Luthor that we're used to. You know, the calm, calculated, bald head or Armani suit wearing bastard that we're used to.
Exactly.
yeah,
Now, my vote is still always Billy Zane for Lex Luthor. I think he would have been perfect
Yeah,
for that.
yeah,
Yeah,
agree.
yeah. That his
but
voice
Eisenberg's
alone.
fine. Yeah, exactly. Like him from Demon Knight, I'll always like best actor ever. Love Billy Zane.
Dude, man,
Um,
you don't know how to act when that movie comes on. You just get goofy. Like, dog. You ever? I'm sure you watched Demon Knight with this fool, right, Randy? Like, dude, like knows every word of the damn movie.
I
like,
haven't yet. He'll send me the
Oh
clips
my
every
God.
year, though. He'll send me a yearly clip of
Listen,
Demon Knight.
it's
He
a
knows
year-round
every
favorite.
damn line of this.
Love that fucking movie. All right,
fair.
and then last thing I wanted to bring up here. I thought it was a nice little detail when they're trying to bring Superman back to life. When the ship recognizes the threat that they're about to awaken, right? Because it just
Mhm.
goes to further emphasize how advanced Kryptonian technology was and how advanced they were as a race, even
Mhm.
without the superpowers under a blue or a yellow sun. Because clearly the ship was saying, we recognize apocalypse technology. We strongly advise against use of this technology. And I thought that was
Yeah.
absolutely brilliant. I also really like the fact
Mhm.
that the technology could sense that a new future had been implanted in the present when Cyborg
Mhm.
got that vision. So I'm just like, damn, Kryptonians were just on a whole different level. And I listen, I
Yeah, they
still
needed
don't,
to die.
yeah, I still don't like Superman because I think he's just way too powerful, right? But this made
Mhm.
me like him just a little bit more because I think you and I were having this conversation, Cam, and I'm going to
Mhm.
let you take this one away. Two things I'd like for you to mention what you told me earlier, talking about how Superman is supposed to be the guiding light for humanity to get to that level. And two, the black suit that was not included in the original film, based on the
Mhm.
comics, actually has some significance as to how that final battle plays out.
Mhm. Yeah, so Kryptonians were supposed to represent what human beings could be at their zenith. And you saw how once they got to their zenith, their arrogance took over, which therein led to the decline of their people, and how Superman, him on Earth, was supposed to like be like that catalyst to for human beings to get to that level. And with the black suit, like that's a take back to the Death and Return of Superman series from the early '90s. How when Superman was thought to have been killed by Doomsday, and you had the successor battle between Steel, the Eradicator,
Yeah.
Superboy, and how later on you saw Superman come back in this black suit. Now, the reason why he was in that black suit was because he was in a weakened state. And what that black suit does is it allows him to absorb more solar radiation, which is why when it came to that Steppenwolf fight, he seemed to be a bit more powerful than he was in Batman versus Superman and Man of Steel, because he was completely juiced up. And you saw that when he flew up to the sky, flew up into outer space to be greeted to the by the sun to absorb more of those rays. So he got kind of like a supercharge in that battle. I thought that was really great. That was some serious fan service right there, because everybody wanted to see that black suit. Like, you can't do a return arc without Superman in his black suit. It would have been nicer if they would have taken a step further and for him to have his 90s mullet.
Now, and
That's
exactly. And that's just the final point I wanted to make. They really pay attention to the power scaling, like I said, because now it makes sense, right? That's why, even though the Justice League was able to kind of, hold him back for a few seconds when he was coming after Batman, he seemed way more powerful when he just effortlessly froze Steppenwolf's axe and then just started beating the crap out of him and burning off a horn, right? Because he was juiced up now with that black suit, which would make sense according to the comics because he also just resurrected from the dead. So not at his strongest form at all. So I really enjoyed that little detail. I think Zack Snyder really understands the source material. So personally, I'll let you make your comments, Randy, and then from there, I think we give it our rating.
Yeah, I mean, like, closing thoughts. Good movie. Good movie. It's phenomenally better than I thought it would be. I had it was something to watch. Just something to watch. Knew I was going to review it, and it surprised me. I hope this is a format that they use in the future. Hope they actually take time to give characters, 30 plus minutes each to just do their through line of what they're going through, their archetype. Because that way you don't get stuff like Cyborg and the Flash's story just being lost, because they should have future movies. And if you don't have this establishing movie talk about who they are, I don't care who they are later. So good movie. I would personally probably get it a 8 out of 10. Versus the maybe 4 or 5 if I'm generous out of 10 I'd give Justice League before. More movies like this, for sure.
Yeah.
Go for it, Cam.
I'm gonna have to agree. To double down on what you mentioned about characterization. I hope what they do with this is they give care to all the characters, because once again, I'm a contrast with the MCU. You see how they kind of threw vital characters into to the wolves, like the Incredible Hulk, for example. I mean, we got one Incredible Hulk movie, and the rest of them, and all the other times we see the Hulk is him he gets more watered down as we go along. And I don't really think Marvel takes as good as care of their characters with what we're seeing here in the process with DC. And if I'm going to rate this movie, I'm gonna give it around the same score as Randy. I'll say 8.5. I loved this movie. It's not perfect, but it was satisfying, which is a vast improvement from what I gave, the theatrical release, which was a 3.5. I was being generous.
Sure.
Was quite trash. Listen,
Quite
I'm gonna finish off by agreeing with you guys. I would personally give it an 8 out of 10. I think it's a good start in redirecting the franchise to what Zack Snyder originally envisioned, something darker, something grittier, something more DC, right? As much as I love MCU, I think MCU is good in its own ways. I know, Cam, you disagree with me. You really hate a lot of the MCU movies. But I think they both offer great things in different formats. I think the DC universe as a whole is always a little grittier, a little darker. So I'm liking how Zack Snyder is doing his thing. So I would really like to see things in the same vein, the same tone. I think that works for DC characters. Was this movie perfect? No. Did I think the 4 hours are warranted? Yes. Because when you introduce a giant team of people on any movie, you need to understand where they come from. And they didn't give a lot of these characters their independent films like Marvel did before introducing them to Justice League. So you really needed, at a minimum, I think, the 4 hours, maybe a little less, but because there was some fluff in this movie, right? Some people say Lois Lane was in it too much. Some people say that the slow-mo shots were a little excessive and added to the runtime for no reason. But other than that, taking that out, I still think that you needed a good majority of the time to really flesh out these characters so that when they fight fully synchronized at the end, it has some meaning. It has some reward to it, because you saw how long it took for them to get there. So I really like that. Every character motivation was explained. Silas, at first, when I took a break at intermission, I was like, why did Silas just kill himself for no reason with the mother box? And they're like, oh, it's so that they could track it with thermo signature. So I thought that was cool. So little attentions to detail I really enjoyed. So I would give this movie an 8 out of 10. I think we're all pretty much in the same ballpark with this film. Would we like to see more? Absolutely. But Zack Snyder, thank you for giving us something beautiful to watch for the DC
Please
universe.
Release a widescreen version, please, man.
That
4:3 shit.
We need a widescreen version. Man. I mean, come on, bro.
Apparently that's what he wanted, but
I want a widescreen version, man.
They'll definitely release a widescreen version, but I think all in all, I can't complain. This movie did everything that I wanted it to. Darkseid is coming. I love seeing him squash Steppenwolf's head effortlessly at the end there. Really just sets the tone. I can't wait to see Granny Goodness, Desaad, and the team just go to town. He had very, very
Ed Asner. Ed Asner come back and voice Granny Goodness. He's still alive. He can still do it. He probably has he's probably 90-something years old. He might die at any moment. But while he's still alive, get him to voice Granny Goodness, please. Hear us, Zack Snyder. Get Ed Asner back.
The call has been placed.
But thank you, Zack Snyder. Truly, I mean, this was a brilliant movie. I loved seeing the dedication to his daughter at the end. Would love to see more.
For sure. Good times. Thanks,
Definitely.
Snyder, and thank you, MK, for hopping on and reviewing. Solid,
Thanks for having me.
100 minutes, and I loved every minute of it. Fun to geek out
it was
anytime.
fun.
So definitely feel free to come back for any future reviews we're doing. Would love to have you.
Definitely.
And thanks for all you guys tuning in. This has been After the Act Podcast. If you want to hear more episodes, you can find us on malumpictures.com. You can find the podcast on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're interested in other kind of podcasts, we have the Magic Cons podcast where we bullshit. And Cam, you definitely have to come on for that one. That one's even looser than this one. It's all good times. You can find us on Twitch and YouTube. Please like and subscribe if you're watching there. Follow us on Facebook at Malum Pictures, After the Act, or the Magic Cons podcast. Until next time, we're out.
Absolutely. Peace. And let's just keep in mind, Darkseid had that great Thanos moment at the end of Justice League. He was just like, fine, get my ship. It's like the equivalent of saying, I'll do it myself. So I can't wait to see that.
He's going to do it himself. See you.
All right, peace.